All right, I am Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow, the world's leading and most comprehensive coaching and consulting firm for long-term residential property management entrepreneurs. For over a decade and a half, we have brought innovative strategies and optimization to the property management industry. We talked to thousands of property management business owners. We've coached hundreds, helping them figure out how to grow their business. And at DoorGrow, we believe good property managers can change the world, and that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. We are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. Now, let's get into the show. So today, I'm hanging out with Tim Baldwin. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Jason.
And Tim is with a company called Property Management Law Solutions. So Tim, give the audience a little bit of background about you and how you kind of got connected to property management, how you kind of started into entrepreneurism. Give us a little bit of your journey.
Yeah. So I am an attorney in Florida. I've been licensed to practice law for almost 22 years. I started out as a prosecutor when I was just out of law school. And then in 2006, I started my own practice. And when I did that, I wanted to enter into an area of law that really there weren't a lot of attorneys practicing. And so that led me to property managers, property management itself, and to the landlord business. So since 2006, I really have specialized primarily in this area of law. And so for the past 20 years, I have developed a clientele throughout the state of Florida with my law firm, which is Property Management Law Solutions. And we help landlords, property owners, apartments, and property management companies across the state of Florida.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, and Florida usually is right, in line with all the new stuff going on. There's California and Florida. So so I'm sure you see some of the new stuff that's probably headed your way from California eventually.
We're sort of on a different spectrum, I guess you might say, than California. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, well, I'm really interested in getting into the topic at hand. So today we're going to be chatting a little bit about what are we chatting about today?
Anything you want that's landlord related, Jason.
Well, let's get into, we're going to be talking about proactive strategies like scheduled inspections, maintenance plans, helping landlords stay ahead of costly problems, avoiding crisis mode, ensuring long-term property health, and several other things. There's a lot. So where should we begin?
Well, I think the place to begin really for property managers and landlords is making sure they have the foundations correct. And I think a huge part of that is the lease agreement. The lease agreement is the operations document, essentially. And that's where every property manager really should start when it comes to managing property. So if you want to dive into that, I'd be glad to talk about that topic.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, like I said, it is the foundational document. It's the operational document you have with tenants. And, Jason, what I've seen throughout the years is sort of this common theme that landlords, property managers don't quite understand the significance of the lease and how to see it as their business document, as their operations document, because that document is what obligates the tenants to act or not act in a certain way. It gives the landlords the enforcement mechanism to run their business the way that they want to run it, as long as it's in compliance with the statute, of course.
Sure.
And so that part of it is just absolutely critical, and it should address all of the various topics and parts of the property management business that property managers see, not just from a day-to-day standpoint, but also the sort of the more rare instances or the occasions where it are unusual, but yet the lease still addresses those topics.
Yeah. So Tim, I totally agree with you. One of the challenges I see is that usually when it comes to contracts, a lot of property management business owners view these contracts as just a protection that happens once you're legally at war with somebody,
Right.
instead of a proactive, preemptive measure of setting boundaries and expectations that can create a healthier relationship. And so a lot of times it doesn't even matter what is written in the contract, it matters what they think is in the contract, the tenant or the owner. And so this is why we coach our clients on making sure that you do a review through the entire agreement with them, and you use that as, like you're saying, as a document to help change things operationally. You go through with them and explain to the tenant, this is what we expect from you. This is when rent's due. This is the consequence. Do you understand this? Because it matters what they understand is in the agreement if you want them to be a better tenant or better owner. Otherwise, the
Absolutely.
document's really just a tool to go to war with somebody once you're in complete chaos,
Yeah.
and there's a major issue. And we don't want to be in those situations. We want agreements. And yes, we want to protect ourselves, but even better is if we use it as an onboarding tool.
You're exactly right. I mean, the education part of this is critical so that tenants know what to expect, and sort of preparing onboarding documents that, of course, reflect what the lease provides. And sort of in tandem with that is the property management agreement itself. So property managers knowing what they want in their business, knowing how they're going to operate. You mentioned inspections, having the criteria of when it is that you're going to inspect the property. If there's additional inspections that may come up, whether it's owner requested or maybe it's an incidental that requires you to go inspect. So the property management agreement is just as important on the owner's side of things. And the lease in the property management agreement need to align with each other, because you don't want to obligate yourself sort of on one end with the property management agreement, but then not have those enforcement mechanisms on the tenant side of things within the lease agreement.
Got it. Yeah. So if it's important for the tenant and the owner's agreements for them to be able to understand these, how important is it for these documents to be plain language versus legal speak?
Well, I mean, it's hard to get away from some of the legal speak, if you want to call it that, just because it's just like whenever you go close on a property. I mean, if probably your audience is very familiar with that. I mean, there's just document after document.
Yeah.
Um, so it obviously can be put in plain terms, but it's not even so much about whether it's going to be put in plain terms versus legalese, but rather which subject matter is going to be addressed. That's the more important part of either one of these agreements, the property management agreement or the lease agreement. And so really, landlords out there need to make sure, or property management companies need to make sure, that both of those agreements really take their business from the beginning of how they operate to at the end of the tenancy and even the move out process, and what governs those relationships.
Got it. So if they've got these really great agreements in place, hopefully maybe the language is easy enough for them to be able to read it and understand it, a bit. So it's not super thick like some of the business stuff I've signed in the past. And then, and it's got like all these proactive things like inspections, maybe, rent increases are built in, and some of
Yeah.
these things that, it prevents later problems and later challenges, so they don't run into these scenarios where now it's a battle or someone's upset or there's a new negotiation that has to happen. What are some of the most critical things that you're seeing that people need to be putting into these agreements?
Well, aside from just what you might consider to be the typical areas of interest in a lease agreement, what we're seeing a lot nowadays, and really for the past few years, a really significant increase in tenant complaints with regard to mold. It's a really, really hot issue. And so having a mold addendum that really provides the nuts and bolts of what is the obligation of the landlord and the tenant when it comes to a claim for mold.
Yeah.
It's kind of in fact, I just did a podcast or a seminar. A seminar on this last week on this issue, and because really this is a topic that for years attorneys did not, I don't think, even myself included, didn't really properly address to the fullest. But since we see it so regularly now, we have a molded addendum that provides for what the parties are to do in that event. So that's a really big one. You mentioned maintenance. That's another big one to where landlords need to be able to put some of the minor maintenance obligations on tenants, because what's happening, and I'm sure your audience has experienced this before, is that the tenants expect the landlords to just do everything. I mean, down to changing out a light bulb. And so if those things are not addressed in the lease, the landlords can really find themselves spinning their wheels and just having a hard time with informing the tenants, no, this is your responsibility. But if they can't point to it in a lease, it becomes problematic, for the landlord. So those are two big issues that we see a whole lot.
Got it. So just making sure there's really strong clarity related to maintenance, clarity related to mold. Mold's got to be a big issue in Florida. You guys have crazy humidity there. So not as big a deal in California, which is pretty dry, but still an issue. So, okay. And anything else that you're seeing? What about maybe like, there's been a lot of push in the last several years for resident benefits packages and putting some additional fees onto the tenants.
Yeah. The revenue stream is very important, of course, for property management companies, and they're trying to figure out ways of creating those additional revenue centers. And one of them is, of course, tenant benefit packages. There's a variety of vendors that try to sort of pull those together into one package so that whatever it is that they're providing to the tenants, you can sort of get it all in one place. Some property management companies are creating sort of those incidentals on their own. Yeah. Whether it's, insurance coverage, certain amenities, credit building, online portals, and these types of things. There's sort of this bulk, and then of course you got to price it out correctly to make sure you're not losing money. Another thing that is fairly common and popular nowadays is sort of having these legal services. They're not legal services, but they're helping to reduce the cost of legal expenses in the event you have an eviction, covering cost, or if you want to cover rent that the tenant hasn't paid up to a certain amount. There's all these types of things that are becoming more and more popular. But as I say to every client that comes to me in this regard, you really got to make sure you're crunching the numbers properly. You don't want to be losing money, and sometimes it has to do with how many properties you manage, because you can leverage the numbers to create a bigger and better benefit for the tenants as well as for the property owners.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Obviously, we don't want to just be adding more and more bells and whistles and services if it's not actually going to be a profit center, if we're going to be losing money.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Okay. Cool. So now you mentioned, in preparation for this, it says Tim will also discuss how consistency, documentation, structured maintenance routines not only prevent maintenance, prevent emergencies, but also build lasting value and trust with tenants. And so let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, everything that the property manager does really needs to be mapped out. Again, starting from the very beginning of creating this tenancy all the way through to the end of it, is that the property managers need to know, here's what I'm going to inspect. These are the services that we're going to provide. This is how we're going to process towards end of the lease processes. For an example, requiring tenants who are already placed to apply again to make sure that they still qualify to renew that lease. So having all of these touchstones, if you will, throughout the tenancy, those things really need to be mapped out in advance, put into your calendar, having the proper forms that relate to whatever it is that you're doing, so you can notify the tenant, hey, this is coming up, or hey, we're going to be here doing this. Or, hey, the end of your lease is coming up. We need to know what you're going to do. So it really is, the structure itself helps to reduce the amount of wasted time. It sort of seems oxymoronic to say, well, if I put more effort into the management, into the steps of the process, that's going to take time. But in reality, when you make it a system and these things become automatic and that it becomes part of what your team does on the routine, it does reduce a lot of time with confusion, miscommunication, missing things that you should have caught, and then making sure that you know which tenants should be renewed and which ones shouldn't be renewed. So all these things work together to make management a more efficient system.
Got it. So a lot of property managers probably initially try to do everything themselves. That's like
Yeah.
what entrepreneurs do. They're like,
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I'll go
Yeah.
ask AI. I'll go watch some YouTube videos. I don't know if I need a lawyer. I don't know. And they try and figure this stuff out themselves. What are some of the challenges that you see and that kind of reveal to you why your business exists? Obviously, your business exists to solve some real problems.
Yeah.
So why would they need PM law solutions?
Well, it's kind of like what you're doing in the sense that, when you have a service that's servicing a need for property managers, you're the professional, you have the training, you have the experience, you have the knowledge to help managers deal with really what they shouldn't have to be dealing with on the day-to-day. So from my standpoint, of course, property managers are not lawyers. Well, it's more than just law. It's seeing the big picture. It's seeing the full scope of how you get from point A to point Z seamlessly, efficiently, with productivity. And so having the professionals to help you streamline what you're doing, make sure you're doing it properly, make sure you're doing it to reduce the risks of liability, is all part of what a professional should be helping you with, whether it's an attorney or even somebody like yourself who says, hey, you want to grow, you want more business, you want to be able to do it with more profit, then these are the steps you need to be taking. So any professional that's servicing that kind of a company, first of all, they should have something that they're providing that is the benefit and it has the value that they're paying for that service.
So what are some of the, I'd love you to tell the audience a little bit about property management law solutions and what some of why they should maybe entertain a conversation with you, why your company might be beneficial, how you could help them with some of the stuff we've been chatting about. Tell us a little bit about the business.
Yeah, well, this is our specialty. So everything that we do in this office is designed to help landlords, property owners in their rental business. We do some other things as well, real estate related, but the bulk of what we do is helping property management companies and landlords. And so, again, it's setting up your system and your business correctly. It's getting those foundational documents. Also, you're getting sort of that library of resources and knowledge that you need. The training and education so that you're managing properties the proper way. And so we can spot issues anytime you run into a situation to where, hey, what do I do? This is what the tenant is saying. I'm not sure. What is my standing here? What is my position here? How do I reduce my risk of liability? That's what an attorney who specializes in this area can help them do. Not to mention help them with, again, the streamlining aspect of what they do, because property management, the property management business itself, as you well know, Jason, is one that you have to really work on those margins to make sure that you're making a profit. And so when you're wasting time and you're spending money unnecessarily, it really can eat into that profit margin. So property management companies have us on retainer to really help them make sure that they're doing business the right way in that regard. We help them with drafting those documents they need, with giving that legal advice. If they ever do have a legal contest or dispute in some way, we step in to help resolve it quickly, to try to avoid litigation, to resolve matters before they get out of hand. So having a law firm really help you at the beginning of things and earlier on tends to really help them save a lot of money and a lot of wasted time.
Got it. Yeah. It prevents a lot of major problems and major headaches later that could be very costly in terms of time and money.
Absolutely.
Got it. Cool. Well, Tim, I appreciate you coming here and hanging out with us on the DoorGrow show. Real quick word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by KRS Smart Books, the bookkeeping team property managers trust when they're serious about growth. So listen, the holidays are busy enough. The last thing you need heading into January is another month of messy books, trust accounts that might be off, or owners blowing up your inbox asking why their statements don't make sense. KRS Smart Books fixes that. They specialize in property management accounting and Appfolio, Buildium, Yardi, Propertyware, and more. They make sure your financials are clean, compliant, and ready for growth so you can focus on scaling your portfolio. And here's your end of year win. If you enroll before December 31st, you'll get 30% off your first month of bookkeeping. That's real savings and a real chance to start the new year with clarity instead of chaos. Visit krsbooks.com and mention DoorGrow on your intake form to unlock your discount. So Tim, in your final words, like in wrapping up, what would you like to say to all the property management business owners out there that are maybe relevant to your business? You only deal with Florida, correct?
For now, we are expanding outside of Florida, but yes.
Okay, so if they're a Florida property manager, if they're not a Florida property manager currently, where would you send people? How do they find somebody that's going to be a good resource similar to you in another state?
Well, the associations, for apartment associations, residential property management association may have some referrals in that way. And so I would probably start there. You can look at the bar association websites in those states to see if there are attorneys who hold themselves out as experts or specialists in that area of law. Those are two common ways of doing it. Obviously, you could do a Google search, but trying to find someone, I would encourage your audience to find the right law firm that fits the way you like to do business, who fits your personality, that you can easily communicate with, that you're able to get in contact with them in fairly short order. Those are critical components of having a landlord attorney, because in that business, things can happen and do happen very quickly. And so having a timely response is important. So you might reach out to other companies or other landlords that you know in your network, start asking for referrals, do an interview, contact the law firm, ask them if you can talk to them about what they can provide to you, what their cost is, obviously, and see if that is a good fit for you.
Got it. So if they're in Florida, how do they get in touch with you?
Several ways. They can look us up on our website, which is pmlawsolutions.com. You can also go to LinkedIn, look at my name, Tim Baldwin, or Property Management Law Solutions. You can find me on LinkedIn. So those are the two primary ways for just email communication, so to speak. But if you want to call our office, you can do that as well at 850-857-2463.
Perfect. All right, Tim, appreciate you coming out and hanging out here with me here on the DoorGrow Show.
My pleasure, Jason. Thank you.
All right. So for those of you, if you are struggling to figure out how to grow your property management business, we are the best in the world at that here at DoorGrow. Reach out to us. We would love to see if we could help and take a look at your business if you want to get to the next level. If you would like a free training on how to get unlimited leads for free, text the word leads to 512-648-4608. And we'll send it to you. Also, join our free Facebook community just for property management business owners by going to doorgrowclub.com. And if you would like to get the best ideas in property management, join our newsletter at doorgrow.com/subscribe. And if you found this episode even a little bit helpful, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on whatever channel you saw this or heard this on. We'd really appreciate it. And until next time, remember, the slowest path to growth is to do it alone. So let's grow together.